They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine came with a side of crawling insects and burning skin. My name is Cole Bennett, and I'm 32 years old. Every morning at 5:30, I roll out of bed, lace up my work boots, and head to whatever construction site needs an electrician. 50-hour weeks are normal for me, sometimes 60. I come home with dirt caked under my fingernails, sawdust in my hair, and the satisfied ache of honest work in my bones. I've never complained about it, not once. Because everything I touch, everything I build, becomes part of something bigger. A foundation, a life, a future. The 3-bedroom house I'm sitting in right now, I bought it before Stephanie and I got married. Saved for 3 years to make that down payment, working double shifts and skipping vacations. The truck in the driveway? Paid off last year, every monthly payment made on time. The savings account that lets me sleep easy at night? Built dollar by dollar, overtime shift by overtime shift. I met Stephanie 5 years ago at my buddy Jake's barbecue. She was laughing at something someone said, head thrown back, blonde hair catching the summer sunlight like spun gold. Beautiful doesn't even begin to cover it. When she smiled at me across that crowded backyard, everything else just disappeared. She was fun back then, spontaneous. The kind of woman who'd suggest midnight drives to the beach or surprise picnics in the park. We moved fast, maybe too fast. 6 months of dating, a year of living together, then marriage. I believed in building something permanent. I thought she did too. For the first couple years, things were good. Great, even. Stephanie worked retail at a boutique downtown, and between my union wages and her income, we were comfortable. More than comfortable. She'd come home with stories about difficult customers, and I'd tell her about the job site drama. We'd cook dinner together, watch movies, plan for the future. Then, 2 years into our marriage, she quit. "I want to focus on us," she said, sitting at our kitchen table with that smile that used to make my heart skip. "Make our house a home. You make good money, babe. We don't need 2 incomes." I didn't argue. Hell, I was proud that I could provide for both of us. That's what a man does, right? Takes care of his family. And Stephanie did make our house beautiful. She decorated with an eye for detail I never had, turned our spare bedroom into a guest room that looked like something from a magazine. She cooked occasionally. Elaborate meals she'd photograph for Instagram with captions about being blessed and kawifey. From the outside, we looked perfect. The working man and his devoted wife. The American dream in a 3-bedroom package. But lately, something's been eating at me. Small things, tiny cracks in the perfect picture. Stephanie's always on her phone now. Not just scrolling, typing furiously, then snapping it shut when I walk into the room. When I ask who she's texting, she says without looking up, "Just the girls," or "nobody important." She's vague about her days, too. I'll ask what she did while I was at work, and she'll give me these scattered answers. "Oh, cleaned a little, watched some TV, ran errands," she'll respond with a shrug. But the house isn't that clean anymore. The guest bedroom she used to keep immaculate is cluttered. Dishes sit in the sink for days, and the intimacy has become a minefield. I try to initiate, and she's always tired, always has a headache, always has some excuse ready like she's been rehearsing it. "You work too much, babe," she'll say, turning away from me in bed. "You're always stressed. Maybe if you didn't take so much overtime." Then she changes the subject. Every time. I tell myself I'm being paranoid. Work stress can mess with your head. Marriage has its ups and downs, everyone knows that. But something doesn't sit right. It's like trying to troubleshoot an electrical problem when you can see the symptoms but can't find the source. This Saturday morning in late spring started like any other. I made coffee, checked the weather, planned to tackle some yard work. Then Stephanie bounced downstairs in a sundress I'd never seen before, keys already in her hand. "Meeting the girls for brunch and shopping," she announced, kissing my forehead like I was her brother. "Don't wait up. You know how we get when we're together." She was out the door by 10 a.m., leaving me alone in the house I built. Wondering why it feels emptier every time she leaves. I walked into that guest bedroom thinking I'd just tidy up. I walked out knowing my marriage was a lie. The guest bedroom looked like a bomb had gone off. Clothes draped over the chair, the bed unmade with sheets twisted and hanging off one corner, clutter scattered across the nightstand. When did Stephanie stop caring about this room? It used to be her pride and joy, the showpiece she'd bring visitors to see. I grabbed a trash bag from under the kitchen sink and started cleaning. Old habit from growing up in a house where you earned your keep by pitching in. Besides, I needed something to do with my hands, something to quiet the restless feeling that had been gnawing at me for weeks. I picked up the clothes first. A blouse I'd never seen, some lacy thing that definitely wasn't Stephanie's usual style. Then I straightened the bed, tucked the sheets back in place, fluffed the pillows. The room looked better already, more like the sanctuary it used to be. That's when I reached for the small trash bin beside the nightstand. I tilted it toward the garbage bag, and that's when I saw it, a used condom, partially hidden under crumpled tissues, but unmistakable. The latex caught the morning light streaming through the window, and my world tilted on its axis. Time stopped. I stared at that piece of latex like it was some alien artifact. My brain refused to process what my eyes were telling me. We don't use condoms. We haven't used condoms in years. Stephanie's been on birth control since before we got married. We talked about kids someday after we got more established. There was no reason for condoms in our house. No reason except the one that was staring me in the face. My hands started shaking. The trash bag fell from my grip, hitting the floor with a soft thud that sounded like thunder in the sudden silence. I set the bin down carefully, like it might explode, and opened the nightstand drawer with trembling fingers. Inside, a box of Trojans, half empty. Beside it, a bottle of massage oil I'd never seen before. Some expensive brand with a label I couldn't pronounce, and a price tag that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. The room started spinning. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, head in my hands, trying to breathe. But every breath felt like drowning. Every heartbeat sounded like a sledgehammer against my ribs. 3 years. 3 years since she quit her job, and I'd been supporting us both. 5 years of marriage, of working myself to exhaustion, paying every bill, trusting her completely. 5 years of believing in us, in our future, in the life we were building together. And she brought another man into my house, into my guest bedroom, into the bed I'd helped her pick out, on sheets I'd helped her wash. While I was out busting my ass to keep a roof over our heads, she was here. Playing house with someone else? The rage hit me like a freight train. Hot, blinding, primal. I wanted to tear that room apart with my bare hands. I wanted to call her right now and scream until my throat was raw. I wanted to drive to wherever she was and confront her in front of all her friends. Let them see what their perfect little Stephanie really was. But then, through the red haze, a colder thought emerged. If I blow up now, I lose everything. She'll deny it. She'll cry. She'll turn this around on me somehow. Make me the bad guy for snooping, for not trusting her, for working too much. I've seen it happen to other guys. They find out their wife is cheating, go nuclear, and end up losing their house, their kids, half their savings. They get emotional, make mistakes, and the cheating spouse walks away with everything. I need proof, real proof, and I need to protect what I've built. I stood up, wiped my face, and forced myself to think clearly. I'm an electrician. I solve problems step by step. I plan, I execute. I don't make mistakes. First, I took photos. The condom, the box, the massage oil, the entire room from multiple angles. My phone camera captured everything in sharp detail, evidence that couldn't be denied or explained away. Then I carefully put everything back exactly as I found it. Every tissue, every piece of clothing, even the way the sheets were twisted. If she was playing games, I'd play them better. I left the house, got in my truck, and started making a list. I wasn't going to just catch them. I was going to make damn sure they remembered it forever. I drove across town to a hardware store I'd never been to before. One of those big box places where nobody knows your name and the teenage cashiers don't give a damn what you're buying. The kind of place where a man can purchase what he needs without questions. 4 wireless security cameras with motion detection and smartphone streaming. Top-of-the-line equipment, the kind contractors use for job site security. Professional grade. When the clerk asked if I needed help, I replied, setting up home security. You know how it is these days. Can't be too careful. He nodded sympathetically, scanned the barcode, and handed me the receipt. Probably figured I was just another paranoid homeowner. If only he knew. Next stop, a pet store in a strip mall 20 minutes away. I browsed the reptile section like I had all the time in the world, checking out the terrariums and heat lamps, asking casual questions about iguana care before finding what I really needed. 3 containers of live feeder insects, crickets, cockroaches, mealworms. The kind of creepy crawlies that make people lose their minds. When the young employee offered to help me find something, I told her, "For my bearded dragon. Little guy's got a big appetite, and I like to keep a good supply on hand." She smiled, rang me up, and wished me a good day with my pet. Sweet kid, probably would have been horrified to know what I really had planned. Final stop. A novelty shop wedged between a nail salon and a tax office. The kind of place that sells whoopee cushions, fake dog poop, and other juvenile pranks left over from an era when practical jokes were innocent fun. I found what I was looking for in the back corner, packets of itching powder. The old-school kind that burns and irritates but doesn't cause permanent damage. 4 packets should be more than enough. The kid behind the counter was too busy scrolling through his phone to even look up. Just scanned the items, took my cash, and went back to whatever was so fascinating on his screen. By the time I got home, it was 1:30. Stephanie had texted that she'd be out until 4, plenty of time to complete my project. I had 2.5 hours to turn my house into a trap. I worked like I was on a job site, efficient, methodical, professional. The cameras went up first. Years of electrical work had taught me how to hide wiring, how to make installations look like they belonged. One camera went into the guest bedroom, angled at the bed, hidden inside a fake smoke detector I mounted on the ceiling. Another in the hallway, disguised as a standard electrical outlet, the kind of thing people see every day without really noticing. The third camera went at the front door, tucked inside a decorative picture frame Stephanie had hung there months ago. Perfect angle to catch anyone coming or going. The last one went in the living room, concealed behind some books on the shelf where it could monitor the main gathering area. I synced them all to a burner phone app, set motion alerts for each camera, tested the feeds multiple times. The image quality was crystal clear, the angles perfect. The system was clean, professional, completely undetectable unless you knew exactly what to look for. Even then, you'd have to be looking hard. Then I walked back to the guest bedroom for the real work. My hands were steady now. No more shaking, no more rage, just cold, calculating precision. The kind of focus I brought to complex electrical jobs where one mistake could kill you. I pulled back the bed sheets and loosened the fitted sheet at the foot of the bed. Carefully, methodically, I positioned the open containers of insects underneath the mattress, placing them so any significant movement would knock them over and spill their contents across the bed. The cockroaches were already starting to explore their new environment. Perfect. Next, I opened each condom packet in the box with surgical precision, shaking itching powder inside before resealing them so perfectly you'd never know they'd been tampered with. I sprinkled more powder on the pillows, rubbed it into the sheets where naked skin would make contact, dusted it across the areas of the mattress most likely to see action. The beauty of itching powder is that it's activated by moisture, sweat, saliva, other bodily fluids. The more passionate things got, the worse the reaction would be. I stepped back and surveyed my work. Everything looked completely normal, perfect, innocent, ready. I cleaned up every trace of my presence, vacuumed the hallway where I drilled holes for the cameras, wiped down surfaces with bleach, took all the packaging and leftover supplies with me in a garbage bag. When Stephanie came home at 4:15, I was on the couch watching SportsCenter with a beer in my hand, looking like I'd been there all day. "Hey, babe! How was your day?" she asked, bending down to kiss my forehead. Her lips felt cold against my skin. "Quiet," I replied, not taking my eyes off the TV. "Just relaxed around the house. Fixed that loose outlet in the hallway. How was brunch?" She launched into some elaborate story about mimosas and drama between her friends. Something about someone's ex showing up unexpected. I nodded in the right places, made appropriate sounds, and watched her lie to my face with the same bright smile she'd been giving me for 5 years. That night, I set my alarm for 6 a.m. Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. I didn't have to wait long. Monday morning, 10:47 a.m., my phone lit up. Motion detected. I was 40 feet up on a scissor lift, running electrical conduit through the ceiling of a new office building, when my phone buzzed against my leg. The notification made my heart slam against my ribs like a trapped bird. Motion detected, front door camera. The moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I'd been dreading, had finally arrived. I climbed down from the lift, my movements deliberate and controlled despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. When my crew partner Rodriguez asked what was up, I told him, "Need to take an important call. Family stuff." He nodded without question. Good workers earn that kind of trust, and I'd been reliable for years. I walked to the far corner of the job site, behind a stack of drywall where I couldn't be seen or heard. My hands shook as I opened the app and switched to live view. There she was, Stephanie, walking through my front door, our front door, like she owned the place. Which legally she still did. Behind her followed a man I'd never seen before, and the sight of him hit me like a physical blow. Early 30s, maybe a year or two younger than me. Fit in that gym membership way, not the earned through labor way. Business casual clothes, pressed khakis, and a button-down shirt that probably cost more than I made in a day. Clean hands, soft hands. He moved with confidence, looked around my living room with familiarity, like he'd been there before, like he belonged there. I watched them move through my space with an intimacy that made my chest tight. Stephanie poured wine, the good Cabernet from the top shelf that we saved for anniversaries and special occasions. They sat on my couch, the leather sectional I'd saved up 6 months to buy, and talked like old lovers catching up. She fed him a strawberry from a bowl I'd washed that morning before work. He whispered something in her ear that made her throw her head back and laugh, that same musical laugh that had made me fall in love with her 5 years ago at Jake's. Barbecue. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. They were comfortable together. Too comfortable. This wasn't some new fling or moment of weakness. This was a relationship, a routine. How long had this been going on? Months? The entire 3 years since she quit her job? Then Stephanie stood, took his hand with the wedding ring I'd placed there, and led him upstairs. The guest bedroom camera activated, and my world went silent except for the sound of my own breathing. I forced myself to keep watching. This wasn't about my feelings anymore. This was evidence. This was documentation. This was how I was going to win. They kissed against the door, hungry, desperate, like teenagers who couldn't wait another second. She helped him out of his shirt while he worked at the buttons of her blouse. The blouse I'd complimented her on just last week. The one she'd said was just something old. They collapsed onto the bed I'd helped her pick out, onto sheets I'd helped her wash just days ago. "Kyle," she moaned when his mouth found her neck. Kyle. Even his name sounded smug and entitled. They moved together with practiced familiarity. This wasn't passion, it was routine. They'd done this before, many times. Every position, every touch, every sound was choreographed by repetition. I watched my wife betray our marriage in real time, and I felt something die inside me. Not break, die. The part of me that had believed in us, in her, in the future we'd planned together. But I also felt something else growing in its place. Cold satisfaction, because soon, very soon, this would all be over. Then it started. Kyle flinched first, swatting at his leg. "Ow, something bit me," he muttered. Stephanie scratched her arm absently, still lost in the moment. "Me too. What the hell was that?" she replied, confused. Kyle sat up, looked around, confused. "There's something on this bed," he started to say. That's when Stephanie screamed. Cockroaches poured out from under the sheets like water from a broken dam. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, scurrying in every direction. Crickets hopped across the pillows, their legs scratching against the fabric. Mealworms writhed near their feet, brown and segmented and absolutely everywhere. They leaped off the bed naked, frantic, slapping at their skin as insects crawled across their bodies. But the itching powder was already doing its work, soaking into their sweat, burning their skin, spreading with every panicked movement. "Oh my God. Oh my God, it won't stop!" Stephanie wailed, clawing at her arms, her legs, her back. Red welts were already forming where her nails broke skin, and the scratching only made it worse. Kyle's eyes went wild with panic and pain. "What the hell is happening? What the hell is this place?" he screamed. They scrambled for their clothes, still scratching, still screaming, stumbling around the room like people on fire. But every piece of fabric they touched just spread the powder further. Kyle pulled on his shirt and immediately started tearing at his chest. Stephanie tried to put on her blouse and threw it across the room, sobbing hysterically. "It burns! It burns! Make it stop!" she wailed, scratching so hard she was drawing blood. They gave up on getting dressed and ran, naked, scratching, crying, down the hallway, out the front door, into Kyle's BMW sedan. I watched them through multiple camera angles as they fled my house like it was haunted. Kyle's car peeled out of my driveway, tires squealing against asphalt, carrying them away half-dressed and clawing at themselves like animals. I closed the app, walked back to Rodriguez and looked him straight in the eye. "Family emergency," I said, my voice steady as granite. "I have to go." He nodded without question. Good workers earn that kind of trust. I drove to the nearest hospital emergency room. It wasn't hard to find them. Stephanie saw me walk through those doors, and for the first time in 5 years, I saw real fear in her eyes. They were huddled in the waiting room like refugees from a disaster. Stephanie and Kyle covered in angry red welts, still scratching at themselves with the desperate intensity of addicts needing a fix. They'd managed to put on clothes, but Kyle's shirt was on inside out and Stephanie's hair looked like she'd been electrocuted. The moment Stephanie saw me walk through those automatic doors, every drop of color drained from her face. Her mouth fell open, and she made a small sound like a wounded animal. "Cole?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. How did you—" "I know everything, Steph," I said, my voice cutting through the sterile hospital air like a blade. Kyle struggled to his feet, trying to look tough despite the fact that he was covered in insect bites and scratching his armpit like a flea-bitten dog. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. I looked him straight in the eye, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. Then I smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "I'm her husband," I answered calmly. The words hit Kyle like a physical blow. He actually staggered backward, his face going pale beneath the angry red welts. "Husband? She said she was divorced," he sputtered. I turned to Stephanie, whose eyes were wide with panic. "Did you now? That's interesting because last I checked, we're still very much married, though that's about to change," I replied. I pulled a manila envelope from my jacket, thick, official-looking, sealed with my lawyer's stamp. The weight of it felt like justice in my hands. "Divorce papers," I announced loud enough for the other people in the waiting room to hear. "Filed with the court this morning. I have video evidence of everything. You, him, my guest bedroom, the whole disgusting show." Stephanie's hands shook violently as she took the envelope. Several people in the waiting room were openly staring now, and I could see the shame creeping up her neck like a rash. "Cole, please!" she begged, her voice cracking. "We can talk about this. We can work it out." It was a mistake. "No," I said, the word coming out like ice cracking. "You're going to sign those papers. You're not going to contest a single thing. You're not going to ask for alimony or half my house or anything else. Because if you do, I release the video." I let that sink in for a moment, watching her face crumble as the reality hit her. "Your family, your friends, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everyone gets to see what you really are," I continued. "Your mom, your dad, your sister, everyone at your old job, everyone you went to high school with, they all get to watch you f***ing another man in the bed I paid for. Your choice." Her face crumpled completely. She knew she was beaten. Knew I had her dead to rights with nowhere to run and no way out. I turned to Kyle, who was backing away like I was radioactive. "And you," I said. He held up his hands, still scratching at his neck. "Man, look, I didn't know she was married. She told me she was divorced." "I never would have," he stammered. My fist connected with his jaw before he could finish the lie. 32 years of construction work, of swinging hammers and carrying materials, went into that punch. Clean, brutal, satisfying. Kyle crashed into a row of plastic chairs, blood streaming from his mouth, groaning like a wounded animal. Several people gasped. A security guard started moving in our direction. I stepped back, raised my hands peacefully. "I'm leaving," I said calmly to the approaching guard. "He can press charges if he wants. I'll be at my lawyer's office." The guard looked between me and Kyle, who was still on the floor holding his jaw. "Sir, I need you to—" he began. "I'm going," I repeated. No more trouble. I walked out of that hospital with my head high, leaving them both broken and bleeding in more ways than one. Kyle didn't press charges. Turns out he had a wife of his own back home, a detail Stephanie had conveniently forgotten to mention. Within 48 hours, he'd transferred to his company's Seattle office and disappeared from both our lives forever. Stephanie signed the papers 3 days later. Didn't fight a single term. Couldn't. My lawyer had made it crystal clear what would happen if she contested anything. The video would go public, tagged with her full name and workplace, viewable by anyone with an internet connection. She sat in that lawyer's office looking like a broken doll, signing away 5 years of marriage with a pen that shook in her hand. She tried to speak once, tried to explain or apologize or something, but I just stared at her until she looked away. The divorce was finalized in 6 weeks. Record time. I kept the house, the truck, my savings, my pension, everything I'd built with my own hands and sweat. Stephanie got her clothes, her car, and the legal minimum the state required, $1,000. $1,000 for 5 years of marriage. For the house she'd lived in, the food she'd eaten, the life she'd destroyed. She moved into a studio apartment above a Chinese restaurant on the wrong side of town. The kind of place where the walls are thin and the smell of grease never goes away. She took a job stocking shelves at a grocery store for $11 an hour, wearing a name tag and a forced smile while scanning items for people who used to be her social equals. Her friends stopped calling. Turns out nobody wants to associate with a known cheater, especially when everyone knows the sordid details. Her family barely spoke to her after I made sure they knew exactly why their marriage had ended. Her social media went dark. I changed the locks the day the papers were signed, scrubbed the guest bedroom from ceiling to floor with bleach and determination, threw out the mattress, the sheets, everything they'd touched, bought new furniture, made the room mine again. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my back porch watching the sunset over the property I fought to keep. And for the first time in a long time, I'm smiling. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I'm sitting on my back porch with a cold beer, watching the sun set over the property I fought to keep. The house feels like mine again, quiet, clean, peaceful in a way it hasn't been for years. The guest bedroom is now my home office, equipped with a desk I built myself and shelves lined with electrical manuals and business plans. I've started a side business doing residential electrical work. Word travels fast in the trades, and apparently my reputation for reliability and quality work has spread. I'm booked solid through the end of the year, making more money than I ever did just working construction. Building something new from the ashes of something old. I'm dating someone too, Emma. I met her through a buddy at work. She's a project manager for a construction company downtown. Hardworking, honest, independent. The kind of woman who splits the check on dates and doesn't need a man to take care of her, but chooses to be with one anyway because she wants to, not because she has to. "You seem different from other guys I've dated," she said to me last week. Sitting in this same spot, her hand warm in mine. More grounded, like you know who you are. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "I do." "Took me a while to get here, but I do," I replied. She kissed my cheek, and it felt real in a way I'd forgotten was possible. "Good. I like a man who's been through something and came out stronger," she said softly. She doesn't know about Stephanie yet. About the cameras or the insects or the itching powder. Maybe I'll tell her someday when we're ready for that level of honesty. Maybe I won't. It doesn't matter anymore. I protected what I built. I walked away on my own terms. Sometimes that's the best revenge there is. Across town, Stephanie Bennett, she kept my name, though I can't imagine why, clocks out of her evening shift at the grocery store. 8 hours on her feet, scanning barcodes and bagging groceries, dealing with customers who treat her like she's invisible. Her supervisor is 22 years old and calls her Steph like they're old friends instead of boss and employee. Her back aches from standing. Her feet hurt from cheap shoes she can't afford to replace. Her hands are dry and cracked from handling cardboard and cleaning supplies. She drives her beat-up Honda Civic, the one with the broken taillight and permanently illuminated check engine light, to her studio apartment. 400 square feet of stained carpet and peeling wallpaper that smells perpetually of the Chinese restaurant below. She heats up a frozen dinner in a microwave that only works half the time. Sits alone in front of a television she bought at a pawn shop. Sometimes, late at night when the loneliness becomes unbearable, she scrolls through old photos on her phone. The house with its perfect guest bedroom. The vacations we took when money wasn't tight. The life she destroyed for a few hours of excitement with a man who disappeared the moment things got complicated. She thinks about me sometimes. Wonders if I'm happy. Hopes I'm not, then hates herself for hoping that. She thinks about Kyle, too, the man who promised her excitement and passion and disappeared faster than smoke when reality came calling. She found out later that he'd been married the whole time, had kids, had a life he was hiding just like she was hiding hers. Late at night, when the apartment is quiet except for the sounds of the city settling into sleep, she scratches her arms absently. The doctors said the reaction from whatever happened that day should have been gone months ago, but sometimes the itching comes back anyway. Phantom sensations, muscle memory, guilt made physical. She puts her phone down, closes her eyes, and tries not to think about the man who built everything for her, and the choice she made that cost her everything. Some itches just never go away. I raise my beer toward the sunset. Toward the future, I'm building one honest day at a time. Emma squeezes my hand and smiles, and I know that whatever comes next, I'll face it as a man who knows his own worth. The past is buried. But justice? Justice has a way of lasting forever.